Barry Zito was among Major League Baseball's elite as a Cy Young Award winner, but he was quick to credit his work ethic and perseverance for his rise to the top. Off the field, Barry enjoyed the spoils that came with worldly success. It completed his identity as a baseball player. In 2007, after signing the richest contract ever given to a pitcher, Barry's career began to take a downswing. The Giants advanced to the World Series in 2010, but he was left off the postseason roster due to unreliability on the mound. Fans began to turn on him. In his book, Curveball, Barry recounts the highs and lows of his career and how he finally found peace and true fulfillment after chasing fortune and fame.
Barry Zito joins us now. It's great to have you here.
Nice to see you, Terry.
You know, we know you as a baseball player, but you really grew up around the music industry. Tell us a little bit about that.
I did, yeah. We always joked, how did an athlete come out of this creative household? My father was a conductor arranger for Nat King Cole, and my mother was a backup singer for Nat, and they actually met doing that together. And, you know, and then my sister ended up going to Berklee School of Music, so there was just all kinds of music in the family. Your
mom really had an interesting life. I mean, she went from being in the music industry herself to being into a religious role. She was involved in kind of New Age faith. Tell us a little bit about her background.
So she was raised in a Christian household with 3 siblings in San Diego, and her mother in the 60s had a spiritual experience, and she documents it in her book. And it was where an ancient being, a Hindu being named Babaji, came and visited her and told her that her purpose was to start a New Age church. So she divorced her husband, who ended up holding a grudge the rest of his life, and she started this new church.
Well, how did your mom's involvement in church and her role, she actually became a pastor at one point, impact you?
Yeah, so that was the church I grew up in, and you know, and she was being a pastor with her mother. And for me, you know, I didn't really understand a lot of the beliefs growing up. I just went to Sunday school and and I always heard Jesus talked about, but the way it was talked about in that particular church didn't involve the crucifix, you know, didn't involve sin, didn't involve, I actually can't do this on my own. And so what I learned is that it was all up to me, the circumstances of my life, and how am I going to do this?
You went on to have just an incredible career in baseball, and I mean, everything you'd put into it really paid off. I mean, you got to the pinnacle of the whole thing. What was life like for you when you were at that place?
It did. In a worldly way, there was huge payoffs, and you know, financial, you know, freedom, I guess they say. It was really incredible. The highs were very high, but the lows were so low that I never could predict how it would just rock my foundation and realize that I didn't have one. But I ended up trying to chase my identity all over the streets of Hollywood, trying to buy the biggest mansions and the fastest cars to fill this hole in my heart that never got filled by that stuff.
Sometimes it's just because you can, right? So 2007, you signed this enormous contract. 2008, your performance starts to plummet. What happened?
Yeah, it actually plummeted in 07 a little bit, but 8 is when it just went off the cliff. And I started out the season 0-8 with an ERA, for all the baseball fans, over 7. So it was a disaster. And what I was doing was trying to validate the money, because I was taking the credit my whole life for everything I did. And so then I was like, I need to justify. And of course, looking back, if I had that perspective that I have now, I can't take credit for any of this. This is all just gifts from God, and I'm just going to keep throwing this ball. I mean, I think my career would have went much differently.
What was it like for you? Because the crowd is cheering one day and then not very grace-filled the next. How did that impact you as a player, as a person?
You know, I was not able to have kind of a steady foundation through the ups and downs. So I just rode the roller coaster with everybody else. And if they were saying I was the greatest, I was like, yep, here I am. Who wants an autograph? And if they said I'm the worst, I didn't leave my house until it was time to go to the field. So I was letting everybody define me, and not, you know, the one person who should be defining me.
And that all began to happen because Amber entered your life, your now wife.
That's right.
And what was it that attracted you to Amber?
You know, it sounds crazy, but I always felt the impulse that I was going to marry and settle down with a good Midwest Southern woman. You know, I was raised in Southern California, but she just had a wholesomeness, a whole heart that was infectious. And even when I first met her, I was like just blown away. And we actually didn't go on our first date until a year and a half later.
Wow.
But I knew there was friction here, and this is real.
So she was the one who first gave you the Word of God. I mean, what was that like?
You know, it's funny. I talk about this experience being left off the roster in 2010.
Yeah, the World Series roster.
The World Series roster.
That had to hurt.
Yes, oh, it hurt. Yeah, my soul. It hurt my soul. And so that kind of cracked me open spiritually. And that, I think that really opened, let the soil be kind of ready for the seed. And then in came Amber about 6 months later, said, lock up all those books you're reading. You need to read this one. And I was at that point ready, because I thought I could do it myself my whole life. But finally I said, I can't do it alone.
So during that time, your mom had gotten sick, and you gave her some advice before the advice was really active in your own life, in a sense. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so my mother, you know, she was actually ill for many years, but she was in a Mexican hospital, and it was in 2008. While I was playing, I went down from San Diego and visited her, and she said, I'm so tired of trying to heal myself and trying to think the right way to heal, you know, and I just want to give it to God. And I said, even before I was a believer, I said, you have to surrender this. You have to give this up. Wow. And she did. And the next morning she said, wouldn't you know, I was pastoring a New Age church my whole life, and now I believe in Jesus, and I've given my life to him. And she died 2 weeks later.
And then your dad, who had been such a powerful force in your life for your athletic career and wanted that for you so badly, but was not himself walking any other walk other than let's do what we do and be successful and take advantage of everything. He came to Christ as well.
He did, yeah. And again, my dad was very headstrong. He actually was raised with a bunch of shame from, you know, how he was conceived as a baby through wedlock and a rape. But anyways, you know, months before he died, he said, I'm giving it to Jesus. I can't do it myself.
It was like when God was ready to paint the brush of your life, he just took the whole family.
It's incredible.
Said, come on.
It's mind-blowing, I know. I go, okay, God, I thought I had you figured out, but of course I don't.
And your dad was, of course, as we talked earlier, the musician. Today, you are retired, you have a wife, 2 beautiful kids, and you are in music. What are you doing?
Yeah, I got to retire in Nashville playing AAA, really enjoyed the game before I walked away, and so I went right into co-writing country music there, released a little songwriting album, and learning production. I mean, having such a fun time.
And it's supposed to be.
Life's supposed to be fun,
yes,
right?
It is. Well, the book is called Curveball. You'll remember it by this wonderful cover. It's available wherever books are sold. We have just skimmed the surface, so you're going to want to get your own copy. Thank you, Barry. So wonderful to have you here.
Thank you so much,
Bless
Terry.
you.